Hey, welcome to the Choose Joy podcast. I'm your host, Andy Womack, here in Wichita, Kansas. And we have the honor of sitting down today with Andrew Heiligenthal. And I am so pumped. I told him I'm so excited about this conversation. Andrew is the husband of Callie, the father of two beautiful girls. And he's also the founder of Wild Olive Coaching.
That's right.
And many other things. And so I told him I was so excited for this conversation, and here's why, and you're gonna be excited about this too, is Andrew, when I've gotten to know him and have conversations, he is one of the most curious people, and what I mean by that, his ability to ask really good questions to unlock conversation or to unlock you as a person or creative is unique, and honestly, like, I haven't come across people with that level of curiosity. And I said, we're choosing joy. And I said, hey, this is, let me know if this is you, but I said, hey, is choosing joy, like in choosing joy, right? Joy podcast.
Yeah.
Do you find joy in being curious?
100%. Absolutely.
So that's not normal. And I love that it's not, you and I have talked about how normal is no longer a thing.
Yeah.
And people have lost the art of being curious.
Yes.
Can you tell us, like, how have you found joy in being curious?
So good. Well, I thank you for your kind words about me. It makes me sound amazing.
Well, you are.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you, and I'm super excited to be here. It's a great question. We were talking about this, and I kind of chuckled, and the reason is I wish that there was like a more noble sounding story about how I discovered this. But it didn't start that way, to be really honest with you. And I think probably 10, 12 years ago, it was a really critical point for me when I was trying to kind of find my voice, I guess. And I knew my wife, we'd been married. And my wife, if you don't know my wife knows her voice. And it is a powerful one. And I wrestled with, like, what does it look like to be me? What does it look like to share kingdom? What does it look like to, be the hands and feet of Jesus in the world? And basically, when I tried, it just fell flat, like over and over and over and over. And I felt like I tried to emulate my wife's style, and that fell flat. And I tried to emulate someone else's style, and that fell flat. And one of the things that happened is I got really frustrated and really annoyed and really self-conscious and insecure, which I already had a healthy amount of that anyways. And I remember talking with the Lord about it. And it wasn't as simple as one conversation, but it did kind of boil down to one or two conversations where the Lord kind of pointed out, like, hey, you keep trying to, like, say something powerful or, like, do something significant. Like, it's not really working. Like, what if you just asked a question instead? And I remember being like, okay, I could try that. Like, well, we could give that a go. And it kind of started this journey for me of really embracing and kind of unpacking what I take to be really two big modes of being in the world. One is as believers and as humans, as, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, whatever, we have to be able to advocate for what we're called to advocate for. And I lean on, Susan Cain wrote a book called Quiet. It was kind of an old book now, but it's basically about the power of being an introvert. And she lays out advocacy and inquiry. And she's like, the world is chock full of advocacy and we're missing the art of inquiry. And she talks about how that's connected with curiosity and wonder, and in some cases introversion, which was really helpful for me. But that was kind of the tipping point for me of getting into recognizing, okay, there's actually multiple ways of doing this. Maybe I'm actually built to pursue the things that God's called me to through inquiry and through curiosity. And that's kind of how I got into it.
That's fascinating. I love it. And it's and you said it was quirky, but no, it's profound. I think people have lost the art of asking questions. People have lost the art of intentionality in this social media focus.
Yes.
Where have you found the beauty of that as you're leaning into it with people? Because I'm sure it's not normal for them, and even in our conversations, it's like, I'll ask you something, and then in that your response, a lot of times there's like 3 questions that come out of it, and I love it because it gets me thinking at deeper levels. Like, so how have you gotten to a space and interacting with people in that? Because it's fascinating.
Well, thank you. I forgive me again for all the 7+ minute.
No, I love it. Oh, you keep going.
It's layered questions. I think like it's a great question. I think for me, one of the things that I'll tell folks, because I actually love to talk about this, and I think it's such an important topic. And like you said, it's such a lost art. And I think we live in a world where there are questions that are asked, but often not because we're actually looking for the answer. It's like it's part of a sales process or a marketing funnel. And so like we're engaged, but we're not necessarily provoked in a way that curiosity does. And again, to be really honest, I wish there was a more virtuous answer. I think most of my questions started because I didn't actually understand what was going on. Like the first leadership, the roles that I had, I realized I'm in way over my head. And if I start by trying to bring myself and have the thing that the world needs, it's actually not going to work because I don't know what's going on and I don't know what we're trying to do. And question asking and being curious was actually just, I didn't feel nice, but it was an effort to get to like an authentic moment of like, what do I actually have inside of me that I can actually bring to the table? I had this 360-degree review, my first leadership job, and it was right after I was in ministry school, and I was like pumped up, ready to change the world. And I figured the marks would either be soaringly high, right, because I'm gonna change the world, or they would have been very low because I'm provoking people, right? And it was literally just like right in the middle, like the most lukewarm. Just Andrew's fine, he's nice, he helps, and it was more devastating to me than I think if they had just said like, you're terrible at this job, we have to fire you, because it was as if I didn't make a difference. Like my happening was kind of a shadow. And so I had to start asking questions of myself.
Wow.
And that led to me asking questions about the organization and the other leaders and the team. And then I started to realize like, oh, actually asking questions is really beautiful, because actually the most of what's out there is the stuff that I don't know. And the most of what matters most, God, will always be beyond what I could ever possibly grasp. And the people that I began to respect most, I realized were the most modest in their assertions and the most humble in their questions. And so it started as something that I think I needed. And in that was something that I realized like, oh my gosh, this is really meaningful. And then it became something that's like, oh, you could get good at this. Like you could do this, not just because it saves your job, but you could do this because the asking questions and being curious actually is meaningful for other people. That space is lacking in the world. And I think that's probably more what it morphed into and kind of what drives me now.
That's so cool. I love it. And you can tell by like watching Andrew talk about this, how happy he gets about his journey along with it. And it's so beautiful.
I wish I could show you. There's like a special shelf where I have the books about questions. Like
I love it.
I'm to the point where I'm like, I like nerding out about that, because I think it is, to your point, and it's not an Andrew thing. Like it's asking a good question is so needed. Like it's just so absent in the world. And I think we were talking with a church in Nashville, and we challenged a couple of the people that we were talking with. We were like, I know that you could get up and give a preach that would change someone's life, but do you have a question that's powerful enough to draw someone to tears? Like, can you actually pull them out? Because we see Jesus doing both, masterfully. And so, yes, the bookshelf of questions, the excitement about questions.
Man, I'm even more embarrassed now that I took you to my office, and there's my bookshelf is needing some love. So I did
have that bouncy ball though. That was
I do have a bouncy ball in my office. Oh my God. It's for joy moments, right?
That's true. Sometimes you gotta
joy, you
bounce
all of it. In the midst of those, like you're talking about, even talking with church leaders on questions and when it comes to joy, right? Choosing joy,
mm-hmm.
right? A question that I think can provoke a lot of emotions is, hey, how do you choose joy?
Mm-hmm.
So Andrew,
mm-hmm.
how do you choose joy? And I'm not talking about like the warm fuzzy, feelings, but it's like, no, like how do you continually choose joy?
Yeah.
Especially in those moments where it's like, I don't know if I want to.
Yep. That's such a good question. I guess my I want to be like, I don't know. How do you do it, Andy? Like, what do you know about it?
You want to sit here?
Yeah. I'd like to get asking the questions. I feel like it's a great question. I feel like it has to be unpacked a little bit. So I maybe I'll probe with some questions. Like, well, we have to define joy a little bit.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like, I think there's lots of ways we could think about joy. I spent some time working in higher education, and joy, maybe it wasn't directly linked, but there's this idea of having a positive perspective as a student and kind of just being positive, having a positive outlook. I think that's essential, but I don't think that's the core of everything that joy is just being positive, right? Like, and we have all kinds of interesting data about like connectivity and the neuroscience of emotion and stuff like this. And I'm like, there's a joy, as far as I understand it, there's like a part of your brain that lights up.
Yeah.
That's like the joy region, right? Like Inside Out is real. It's not a kid's movie.
We straight up had that conversation with the cow. We had that exact same cow. Yeah. So keep going.
Inside Out is real. Joy is real, as are the others. They're all living in your brain, pushing buttons. So there's like a joy center, but like, if you think about it, I was talking with someone who it was explaining an expert in this, which I'm not. And they were saying, the thing that's interesting about emotions is they're not in and of themselves necessarily good, bad, right, or wrong. So like joy emotionally isn't the goal. That's like the kleptomaniac experiences joy, and that leads to a lot of problems. Like that's why they keep stealing stuff, is because of the joy center firing and they're not able to regulate that emotion. So it has to be something a little bit different than just the feeling of joy.
So good.
And I think, I don't know about you, but for me, I think a lot of times I've thought about my life in terms of joy related to good things happening. And I think that, of course, that like God's a good father and that is his desire and his intent. But I think we all know that not only good things happen, right? And so joy can't just be linked to only good things happen to me. I only can handle good things. And so,
yeah,
I guess for me, the question is like, okay, well, what is joy? And I think this is a really long explanation. This is why we get to 7-minute audio.
I love it. This is good.
The best way I can think about it, there's a piece that Dallas Willard writes about. It's actually about love, but I think it's about disciplines and realities of kind of the spirit. And he talks about the command to love your enemies. And his point is, Jesus isn't saying when your enemies are around, do love your enemy things to them. Like it's not about an external set of practices. That's not the core of what love means. He's like, the command is be connected with the creator of the universe in a way such that when your kids are in front of you, love comes out. When your spouse is in front of you, love comes out. When your enemies are in front of you, love comes out. So to me, I think when we talk about joy, it's another fruit of the Spirit. It's another manifestation of connection and participation in the life of God, such that no matter what comes, joy is one of the things that comes out of it. So if that's what joy is, to me, it actually really like razor focuses our emphasis is how do I be really connected to God? Because that is the source for the kind of joy that I think encompasses the others, but also far surpasses it.
That's so good, man. That's so beautiful. And I think like when you and I continue to talk, it's like always one of those things where we're talking about big problems.
Yeah.
Like big problems. And I think as we look at society and where its current state is, it's really hard to find pure joy, or it's really hard to find aspects or communities that are operating in an overflow of joy, right? But I think it's one of those things where it has to be modeled somewhere, right? And it's interesting because we look through scripture and we see it modeled through King David's life from the Psalms, right? There's this like, continual conversation with the Lord in those places that you're saying, just how do we get here? And Lord, this is what's happening. And he's like, oh, joy comes in the morning. And it's like, oh, that's different. And so when we think about communities and you and I have these conversations, you've been in the nonprofit space, you love thinking about models and mental things. And what for you, like when we have aspects of discipleship or community transformation, what do you think at the core changes people to want to get themselves out of tough situations?
Such a good question. I'm just going to go with, I guess I feel like we could sit and describe probably a lot of things.
Yeah.
The thing to me that I think if we're going to have that conversation, can't not have is a conversation about trust. And I remember, it's actually funny, one of my first jobs in nonprofit was in Minneapolis, and it was in a kind of a rougher part of the city. And I was working with families in a TANF program. And it was my first job, and I was in way over my head in every single possible dimension of that job. At lunch, I would lock my door and literally listen to worship music and read my Bible because I did not know what else to do. And I was just beyond myself. But I remember they sent me to a training, and it was this woman talking about attachment theory. And she was explaining the way that healthy attachment is modeled in some of these early experiments. And I don't remember the authors and the designers experiment, but I imagine most of us have heard of it. It's like a caregiver and their child, and they bring them into kind of an unfamiliar environment, and they observe what are the different ways that the kids behave. And there's, I think, if I'm remembering right, 3 main ways. The kid either kind of wanders off and is pretty independent. The kid is kind of nervous and is very close, or they kind of go out and explore and then come back and then are, connected, and then they go out again and explore, and then they kind of come back. And part of what they end up pointing out is this going out and coming back, that into and return kind of model is a really solid kind of attachment model. And the others are fine too. Like, they work great. I'm more of an independent one, frankly, that's probably where I come from. The point that I'm driving at is the system that drives this is a trust system, right? Where it's like a need is experienced, it's expressed, there's some sort of action taken to have comfort or regulation received that is obtained by the little one, and then they emerge from this cycle with confidence and trust. So you see it in the experiment in that they go out into their world again, but that they reach a point where they come back and actually they have need, and they express it, and it's met. So for me, when it comes to really big problems, when it comes to really complex systems, really vast architecture, which I think are most of the kinds of things that are actually really require our time and attention, I'm like, the thing that I can't get past is how do we embed our interactions with moments of this trust cycle? Because we can't solve problems with other people that we don't have increasing levels of trust with. And I know for myself, I won't have faith, I won't have joy, I won't have love for any of these kind of situations that I don't have trust in God from. And it comes not from just like reading my Bible in secret and absorbing as much as I can and then like holding it and then like trying to face stuff. It's actually the like going to Him and going out and going to Him and going out. And that constant interaction is what like a bungee cord allows you to eventually stretch further and further and further. And that trust begets trust if we know how the cycle works and if we do it on purpose. That's what I feel like is so important about even just the idea of connecting and joy being a product of connection with God and trust with God.
Gosh, that's good. What is it when you're coaching your creatives, that could you coach creatives?
Yeah.
And you're talking about trust cycles and different things. What is there opportunities a lot of times where you have to get them just to trust themselves?
Yes.
Like how do you get them to do that? Because I think like even to find joy in something, to your saying, is there has to be a level of trust. Like, do I trust myself enough that I can even express the emotion joy?
Yeah.
Do I trust myself enough to be able to experience love? Do I trust myself enough to have these feelings? Or if I don't trust, do I just sit in apathy and in these dark places?
Absolutely.
So how do you get them to unlock those places of trust?
Absolutely. I mean, it is such a good point, because it is like, and I think I'm actually curious what you would say about this, because I think it's an interesting tension. Like, we're not meant to trust ourselves in like this weird humanism kind of way, right? Like, that's obviously not going to work out good.
Yeah.
Like, we're not meant to trust ourselves in that way, but you are you. Like, you can't pretend you're not a part of the equation, that you're not part of the medium that God is invading earth through, that God is making an impact through. Like, you bear the image of God. So I think that tension, it sits just underneath this question, because if you can't wrestle with this isn't about me, but it also isn't not about me in an important way, because if I'm undernourished emotionally, spiritually, physically, I'm not going to be my best. And that is going to obviously impact any of the stuff that I try to do.
Yeah. It's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like if I can't ever get to self-actualization to be in a space like that if I'm not meeting the criteria that lead up to it, right? Physical, psychological, safety needs that get us to a place of self-actualization.
Yep.
And it is fascinating because I think even as I say that, the only way to truly trust ourselves is to trust the Holy Spirit inside of us.
Yes.
Right? It's coming to a relationship with the Almighty Creator to say, He trusts me. He's redeemed me and created a new creation. And in that creation, He, we say this all the time, like when God looks at us, He sees Jesus.
Yes.
And so in that essence, it's like He trusts me to do these things. And it's me that holds me back.
Yes.
It's wild, but it is. It's like, and I use the analogy a lot. Kansas, you're currently in Texas.
Yes.
And so you guys have probably very similar sunsets and sunrises.
Right.
That we have in Kansas. And people always talk about, we have beautiful sunrises, beautiful sunsets. And I use this analogy. I'm like, nobody's ever looked at a beautiful sunset with all the colors and be like, oh man, that's really beautiful. But God, if you could have put more blues or more greens or a few more clouds that created purples.
Totally.
Like that would have been great, but really you missed it. No, we sit and we're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yes.
And yet we're God's favorite piece of creation.
Yes.
And we can look at a mirror and pick it apart.
Yes.
And say, God, you messed up here. God, you messed up here. God, I've messed this up. This self-harm place just in how we look in the mirror every day. And God looks at us and says, no, you're beautiful.
It's so, and the crazy thing to me is in an effort to not be negatively, humanistically self-trusting, we become hypercritical, which is just another head of self-trust, where it's like my opinion of who I am and of what I see is the truest true. I think it's one of the single most significant things for me is in my journey with the Lord is when it was just routinely, they weren't like these powerful, radical moments. It was just routinely in my thinking, the Lord would ask if my idea about me or my idea about the thing was because, if I had that idea because that's what His idea was, or if it was my idea. And like constantly, like, do you think that because that's what I told you, or do you think that because that's you? Not denigrating that I had a picture, but challenging me to be like, the truest true thing you can think about me is actually what I think about you. There's not some abstract true picture of Andrew other than like what I have in my brain. That's the thing that we have to align to. Going back to the original question that you asked, I think one of the most underutilized paths to grow this muscle is through curiosity. And what I mean by that is again, for a while, and sometimes I still try to just tell people, creatives, or I work with a lot of people that are just going through change. And in any of those areas, you have to be able to trust yourself in a healthy way. And I've done my best to tell them, like, you can do this, and you can believe in this, and you can trust in this, and it typically never works. But what will work is if we start asking God questions, like, what do you know about this that I don't know yet? Or like, what makes you confident about this scenario that I've never thought of? Or what do you think right now? What do you want me to know just right now about this scenario? And we'll ask a follow-up question like, how do you know that? Or what makes you think that? Or how do you feel about that? What typically will happen is for the first like 3 or 4 layers, people are like wary of it. They're like, is this my imagination? Is this the Lord? Like, what is actually happening? And eventually what will happen, that like thing where they say, if you want to have like a really rich understanding of your why, like ask, or who you are, your purpose, ask why like 6 times or whatever. It's like that. When you get down to that like 5th, 6th, 7th question, the Lord will say something and they'll be like, it's like, that was too good for that to have been me that made it up. Or it'll be funny in a way that they're like, I'm not that funny to me about me. Or like, it's kind in a way that they're like, I don't talk to myself kind like that. And like what happens is if you like stick with it long enough in sometimes very practical, measured ways, the Lord will show up and affirm, like, you should trust that this is me, and you should trust that you hear me. And it moves something that is active and powerful in people's life from something they didn't know to like, oh, now this isn't, I just realized I didn't know this, but now I know that God's here and saying things that I was not fully aware of like 6 questions ago, which took 2 minutes to get there. And that surprise, and we get there through curiosity, but that surprise is the moment where we're like, oh, I'm open. Like, oh, I'm actually interested. Like, there's such a gift in realizing there's just something you didn't know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the curiosity and the safety and the trust that comes from that, because if you're going to receive something from someone who knows something that you don't know, you're ultimately vulnerable before them. And for them to deliver it to you like the Lord does in those moments, in kindness and in like, to just like picture perfect, like a gift for that person the way they need to hear it. It like, I don't know that there's anything that jacks up trust in a good way, like those kind of moments. And it's like a splinter, like you can't get it out of your brain, that kind of experience. And it's like, I think it makes us junkies in a good way for more of what he has to say. That drives us to trust, and it drives us to connection, and it drives us ultimately, I think, to joy.
That's so good. That's so good. Well, here's how I want to close, because I think like what you're hitting on is so good. Because I think people miss out on the opportunity to find purpose in trusting that they can hear God's voice. Like finding purpose in the ability to know that, hey, he does trust me and he does care about me. Like, he talks about in Psalms that his thoughts about me are as numerous as the sands on the seashore, and all of them are good. And it's like, if that's the case, you think about all the sands on all the seashore, and his thoughts are as numerous about us as those, and they're good thoughts. It's like, oh, well then why should I ever have a negative thought of distrust in my head that he doesn't have? And so will you just maybe encourage somebody who might be listening or watching, just that, hey, God trusts you. Remain curious. God trusts you.
So good. Yeah, I feel like you can't have negative thoughts if at your core you're not built and designed by God to have the true thoughts. Like, the negative stuff is only ever always a distortion of a deeper truth. And I think the thing that I would just want someone to know is like, the fact that you're thinking at all is it actually a miracle? Like, it's actually a profound miracle that we can't explain with technology. We can't explain it with science. We have literally no idea how it is that we're doing these thinking kinds of things that we're doing left and right. And it stinks on days when you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm full of negative ones. But I think like you can't have the negative ones without being built for the good ones and the true ones. And I think in every negative one, what there actually is our hope and our aspiration and our design to achieve the great things that God built for us.
Yeah.
And I think like, if we can look at those and be like, actually, what is the intention in this that actually is a picture of God, like his thumbprints on my desires and my aspirations that are meant to bring who he is to the world, like it begins a process where even the negative stuff can be pulled apart and gently kind of deconstructed and reassembled unto like, this is actually what God says about that. And this is actually the intention that is, not only do you care about this, but this is an intention that you wouldn't even have, save God putting it inside of you. And I don't know, I think that place where the stuff that we say, this is a positive thing, or the stuff that I'm like, this is a negative thing. If I can look at the negative as just like, actually, this is an invitation to figure out what I might just not know yet today.
It's good.
Becomes a really beautiful moment with the Lord.
That's good. Well, Andrew, thank you so much. I love your curiosity, but there's so much wisdom in it too. And I would say if you are watching, learn to be curious, choose to be curious, because I think as we learn to be curious, we can find joy in people, find joy in relationships.
Yeah.
We can choose joy in a lot of different areas as we remain curious, because there's so many things around us that continually bring us to a place of curiosity.
Yeah.
And that's why I love reading scripture, because I can remain curious reading it.
Yes.
Because it's the only book that continues to breathe life every time I read it. And if I'm curious enough to dig into those deep places,
Yes,
he always shows up. So
yes.
Andrew, thank you for encouraging us to be curious. Thank you for your time. We so value you, and yeah,
Bro, thanks for having me. It's so much fun.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Cheers, dude.